Hey guys, Aaron Farmer here with my sugar-free journey. I wanted to take a look at some of the articles that have come across my desk today. First up, boy, this was a big article. This was in JAMA. This is a viewpoint. I was not aware that JAMA did basically editorials, but apparently I guess they did. Now, by way of context, before we look at everything that's in here, this is in basically in response to the VertaHealth study that was put out that showed after 2 years of putting people through the VertaHealth program, significant reductions in weight, significant reductions in people with type 2 diabetes. And so if you don't know, the VertaHealth program is basically a ketogenic diet with lots of help, basically. You know that you've got lots of support from the medical staff. So here's what these good doctors had to say in response to the VertaHealth study. Mostly a bunch of negative stuff. So we're going to hit a few highlights here. Of more importance, from the early 1970s to the early 2000s, Americans increased total energy consumption by at least 240 calories a day. Estimates vary by method and source, likely contributing to weight gain and the increased incidence of diabetes. It's saying that it wasn't that these people were eating more carbohydrates, it's that they were eating more calories. And of course, we would agree with that. But what we would say is it's the increase in carbohydrates that was driving the increase in calories. For whatever reason, and the reasons for that are pretty interesting, but I'm not going to go into it in this video. When you eat a diet with it doesn't even have to be high calories in the sense that 60 or 70% of your diet, it just has to be more carbohydrates than normal. That drives you to eat more calories. That's why you see an increase in carbohydrates and especially refined carbohydrates at the same time you saw an increase in calories. So yes, they're right. It was the excess calories that made people fat, but the consumption of the excess calories was driven by the consumption of excess carbohydrates. Is the ketogenic diet more effective for weight loss than other diets? In a meta-analysis of 13 studies lasting longer than a year, researchers found that the ketogenic diet was associated with less than a kilogram of additional weight loss over high carbohydrate, low fat strategies. Now, we've got a link here to this study. And here's the study that they're referencing. Very low carbohydrate ketogenic diet versus low fat diet for long-term weight loss, a meta-analysis of randomized control studies. So individuals were assigned to a very low carbohydrate ketogenic diet showed decreased body weight of about a kilogram, and some of the other differences and whatnot. Individuals assigned to a very low carbohydrate ketogenic diet achieved a greater weight loss than those assigned to a low fat diet in the long term. Hence, a very low carb ketogenic diet may be an alternative tool against obesity. So in this look at this meta analysis of a bunch of different studies that were looking at the ketogenic diet, all things being equal, the people on a ketogenic diet lost a kilogram, which is about 2.2 pounds. They lost about 2 pounds more than the people on another diet. So I know that doesn't seem significant, but still, it was a greater weight loss of people on a ketogenic diet when everything else was held equal. And they're kind of poo-pooing that here and saying, oh, that's it's only a kilogram. Well, let me tell you something. Someone who's been morbidly obese, that's how you lose weight. You lose weight a kilogram at a time, and so we don't want to poo-poo a method that's going to help people lose weight. I mean, that's how you do it. You do it 2 pounds at a time, 1 pound at a time, and then you keep going. This difference. Continuing on, this difference, although statistically significant, may not be clinically significant. It is. Furthermore, a meta-analysis of 32 controlled feeding studies found that energy expenditure and fat loss were greater with low-fat diets compared with ketogenic diets. So this is marked as this number 2 here. And when you click on the number 2, let me show you right here. This is what is referenced to number 2. This is Kevin Hall's study, energy expenditure and body composition changes after an isocaloric ketogenic diet in overweight and obese men. So we go and we find that study. So here's the study right here. So this was not a meta-analysis, as it says. Sorry, let me go back over. In this, back over here. Where was I? Oh yeah, this says it was a meta-analysis of 32 controlled feeding studies. That's not what this is. This was a study of 17 overweight or obese men that were admitted into metabolic wards. And this study I thought was really interesting because they did them on 4 weeks of high carbohydrate, followed not with a washout period, which you would think would be the next step, but they went immediately from 4 weeks of a high carbohydrate period immediately into 4 weeks of a ketogenic diet. Of course, it takes at least 4 weeks for someone to transition, so it's not surprising that if you do somebody on 4 weeks of high carb followed by 4 weeks of ketogenic diet, they're not going to see a whole lot of weight loss because it takes time to keto adapt. The person who did this study is Kevin Hall. He knew that. I don't know why he did it this way, but he did it that way. And then for this to be referenced in this study, the one that we're looking at today, as a meta-analysis, I'm not sure, what that is. May just be a typo, but it's not what's happening here. Any diet that results in weight loss does so because it reduces calorie intake. The ketogenic diet, when used for weight loss, is no different. Again, I just want to be clear. That's true. A ketogenic diet results in weight loss because it reduces calories. It reduces calories because you don't want to eat as much. It's an appetite control diet. You don't want to eat as much food if the majority of your food is fat and protein than if the majority of your diet is carbohydrates. Look, this is a very easy way to test this. Go to McDonald's tomorrow, get your normal McDonald's meal and your extra large Coke, and refill that Coke as many times as you normally would. Okay, and just eat that meal like you normally would, but pay attention to how many times you can refill that Coke. I know when I was eating crap food, I could refill that Coke 3 or 4 times before the end of the diet and walk out of there with a full Coke and drink that Coke for the next hour or two while I was in my car. Then go back the next day, get that same meal, but instead of filling that cup with Coke, bring in a gallon of milk and try to drink as much milk as you could Coke. And you won't be able to do it because the higher fat content in the milk, it triggers your satiety hormones so much faster. You can't get through the whole meal. You certainly can't drink 3 or 4 or 5 big giant cups of milk because the higher fat content makes it very, very difficult for you to put all those calories back into your body. I mean, just you can try it out for yourself. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, send me a message, and I'll tell you my experiment a little bit better. A meta-analysis of randomized long-term studies, continuing on here, compared the ketogenic diet with low-fat diets for weight loss, reported no difference in glycemic control among persons with type 2 diabetes. So the only thing I'm going to say about this is if you put someone that has type 2 diabetes on a low-carb or a ketogenic diet and you do not see a drop in their blood sugar, or you do not see a drop in their long-term A1Cs, you did something wrong. I have never once seen or heard of anyone that has type 2 diabetes going on a low-carb diet and their A1C not dropping. I just haven't. So if those people are out there, I'd love to talk to you and find out what's going on, but those people are definitely outliers. So if we've got studies where we're putting type 2 diabetics on a low-carb or ketogenic diet and their A1C is not dropping, there's something wrong, and I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something wrong. In terms of risk-benefit analysis or risk-benefit balance of the ketogenic diet, the potential adverse effects may give one pause. A review of the literature on ketogenic diets for the treatment of pediatric epilepsy reveals multiple adverse effects, ranging from the relatively benign but inconvenient keto flu, an induction period of fatigue, weakness, and gastrointestinal disturbances. We're not going to talk about that because those are common things, and I've done many videos about all of those. But this is the one I wanted to touch on. To the less common but deadlier occurrence of cardiac arrhythmias from selenium deficiencies. Oh my gosh, you telling me if you go on a ketogenic diet that you could have cardiac arrhythmia from a selenium deficiency? Well, probably not, because the study that this was done with, these were sick kids. These were epileptic kids. They were controlling their diet and giving them shakes. I forget the name of the shakes, but they were giving them shakes that were ketogenic in order to control their diet and put them in a state of ketosis in order to control their seizures. Well, they forgot in that first round of shakes, they forgot to add selenium to the shakes. So these poor kids that were given these shakes started having cardiac arrhythmias and some other problems because they were deficient in selenium. It's probably not going to happen to you, because when you go on a ketogenic diet, you're not going to drink a bunch of shakes, are you? You're going to eat real food, and real food is going to have selenium. So don't worry. This is the kind of weird scaremongering that people that are against the ketogenic diet do. Don't listen to it. Don't worry about it. No one is going to have a selenium deficiency when they go on a ketogenic diet. The greatest risk, however, of the ketogenic diet may be the one most overlooked: the opportunity cost of not eating high-fiber, unrefined carbohydrates. Those poor, unrefined, high-fiber carbohydrates that nobody's eating anymore because they're all on a ketogenic diet. Whole grains, fruits, and legumes are some of the most health-promoting foods on the planet. They are not responsible for the epidemics of type 2 diabetes or obesity. Their avoidance may do harm. Okay, so most of that I would agree with. Whole grains, fruits, and legumes they can be healthy foods if you're not metabolically broken. And I think this is where this conversation really falls apart. If you're already broken, if you're already metabolically snapped into, if you're already obese, especially morbidly obese, if you already have type 2 diabetes, if you already have these issues, then you really, really, really need to pull back on your carbohydrates as much as possible. If you're metabolically healthy, you can have whole grains, fruits, and legumes in your diet and probably be okay, because it's all real food. I mean, the whole grains, I would argue, is not real food, but the fruits and legumes, you can have that in your diet, and it's not going to hurt you. But if you're already sick, if you're already broken, get that stuff out of your diet. Don't worry about the opportunity cost of not eating high fiber, unrefined carbohydrates. You're going to be fine, okay? Eat meat, eat real meat. Eat some, fresh leafy greens. Eat whole fat dairy if you can tolerate it, and just go with that for a while until you get well. And if at the point you get well, you want to add some of these other foods back into your diet, great, fine, whatever. But let's get healthy first. And I wanted to read some of the comments, because the comments are pretty good. 2 comments for this article. Stephen Riggs says, I've been in the practice of internal medicine for over 30 years, and all that time I've never taken that's not a word, and he didn't write that, anyone off of their insulin, or rarely reduced their medications unless they had gastric bypass surgery or something as drastic. After implementing the ketogenic diet for the past year, I daily am seeing patients come off insulin and reverse their diabetes, correct their hypertension, feel great, reduce inflammation, chronic pain, improve cognitive scores, correct their dyslipidemia, and improve athletic performance. And this is what we see over and over and over again when people are put on the ketogenic diet. One more. Obviously, the authors of this paper have not recommended a very low carbohydrate diet, ketogenic diet, to their patients. I would agree with the good Dr. Martin here. If they had, they would be amazed at how well people do. Patients lose weight, diabetes comes under better control, and often they get off meds. One of my GI techs has lost 90 pounds and no longer meets criteria for polycystic ovarian syndrome. In addition to weight loss and improvement in diabetes, reflux symptoms often go away, and patients are able to get off PPIs. Fatty liver improves with normalizations of... Anyway, it goes on and on and on. And it's just... the people who do it see success. The people who don't do it complain. Okay? All right, let's go through the rest of these really quick, because I think, how long is this video already? Maybe I should just quit it here. But there's no way for me to know. Yeah, let's just continue on. Let's see here. Sugar industry exploited dietitians to influence dentists, study shows. In 1975, the U.S. Sugar Association created the Regional Nutritional Information Program in an effort to enlist dietitians to spread positive messages about sugar and health. A recent study has inquired into the RNIP and evaluated its impact on dental professionals. The findings suggest that the sugar industry used dietitians strategically in order to influence the dental community's views on sugar. We know that the sugar industry, this is not the first article that's come out that said that sugar industry has tried to influence medical professionals and to say that sugar is okay. It does put articles like the one that we just spent 20 minutes reading through in a different light, because I mean, if the sugar industry has done this in the past, it wouldn't surprise me if, the big whole grain industry is not doing the same thing now. I'm not saying that the good doctors who wrote that previous article that that's what's happening. I'm just saying that it's happened before and it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know why a doctor would. Anyway, let's move on. According to the study, dietitians working for the SA hosted educational workshops, incorporated the association's literature into libraries and curricula, monitored professional and consumer attitudes towards sugar, and made media appearances. They also interacted with dental professionals by documenting their attitudes towards sugar, influencing a professional conference to include pro-sugar speakers, developing a media program that minimized sugar's role in causing dental caries, and by monitoring and criticizing dental researchers who sought to examine the high sugar content of breakfast cereals. This is absolutely insane. If there's any one medical professional that should have no problem telling people to not eat sugar, it should be a dentist. Because if there's any one doctor out there that sees firsthand every single day exactly what a high sugar diet does to a human being, it's a dentist. He spends all day, filling cavities. Where do these dentists think that these cavities are coming from? They're coming from the high amount of sugar and processed carbohydrates in our diet. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. But it just shows you sugar's industry. Sugar is always trying to influence industry to say that sugar is okay. All right, moving on. Can pets eat vegan? Definitely, maybe. I bet you're not going to be surprised to find out that I disagree with this. As more and more Americans shift to a plant-based diet and feed their families less meat, some of them are bringing up the big questions in the veterinary exam room. I'm vegan. Can my pet be vegan? Especially in the case of cats, typically considered obligate carnivores, the answer is a hard no, right? And then he goes on to say, why that doesn't necessarily be true. Listen, feed your animals the diet that they evolved to eat. Okay, your dog is an evolved wolf. Wolves they're carnivores. They went and they killed things and they ate the meat. Your cat. The reason cats were domesticated is so that we could get them and we could set them loose into the grain fields and they would eat the mice in the grain fields and leave the grain alone. That's what cats should eat. Cats should eat meat. Dogs should eat meat. You should not be feeding them crap. Moving on in the article, the way physiologies work, we need certain nutrients, not ingredients. But we have ingredient bias based on our own experiences, our cultures, what's locally acceptable. What happens as soon as you put a whole food or a particular ingredient into your mouth? It starts being reduced to its constituent nutrients. How we access those nutrients is what makes all the difference. And the article goes on to make the case that we just need to get all of the nutrients that everyone needs and put it in a little pellet and feed that to your dog and your dog will be healthy. Well, we've done that before, but we did it with human beings, and it didn't turn out very well. We started, telling people that breakfast cereal was healthy because it came with 8 essential, vitamins and minerals that we sprayed on the grain. We started making, bars that had all of these supposed nutrients in it, but it turns out when we eat nutrients that aren't in their natural whole food form, our bodies have a very difficult time incorporating those into our bodies. Our bodies expect to see nutrients in certain ratios in whole foods, and that seems to be the best way that we can absorb that food. So you need to eat real whole food. Your animals need to eat real whole food. Your animals need to eat probably mostly meat. I'm talking about dogs and cats here. You probably need to be eating mostly meat. Moving on. What do we got here? Anti-starvation trick that saved our ancestors may underlie obesity epidemic. You know what? We're going to skip that one. Don't worry about that one. Finally, this one. This lady is 104 years old. They asked her a few questions to figure out how she lived to be so old. This hits very close to me because I have a 90-year-old woman that lives right there behind me, and it's my mother-in-law. And they asked her what she did to live 104 years. When anyone meets me for the first time, they always ask me, what do you attribute your longevity to? And I always say, just don't tell me to be good, because I want to dance and have fun. She has fun. She dances. She moves. I exercise every morning to help me with my balance. She exercises. She's probably not deadlifting, but she does something with her body. She's fighting her sarcopenia. She's trying to hold on to as much muscle as she can. I learned to drive when I was 55. Even later in life, which now 55 is 50 years ago for her, but even, at 55, she's already what we would call a senior citizen. She's learning a new skill. She's learning how to drive. I have an 8th grade education. Everything I've learned I've gotten from books, especially self-help ones. So she's self-motivated. She's self-educated. She continues to read. I want to figure out how to do something. I go find a mentor, or I go to a library. She seeks out other people. Relationships are incredibly important. I learned the computer from taking a class years ago. I've had an iPhone for the past couple of years. I'm still having some trouble with it. Probably 20 years ago, my mother-in-law said she didn't want any technology. And then she said, well, I do want to be able to email my friends. So we got a machine. All it did was email. And then she said, I think I'm ready for like a whole computer. So we got her a computer and taught her how to do that. And then she said, I think I'm ready for a smartphone. So we got her a smartphone, taught her how to do that. Now she's back there. She's got a Kindle. She's got a tablet. She's got a computer. She's got her smartphone. She emails grandkids. She sends pictures. She has her own Instagram, whatever you call it, page. She's, that's my mother-in-law. She's learning, and she's learning how to, she's not staying static. She's changing with the world. I've always been very good, getting back to the article, I've always been very good at working with my hands. My husband and I restored cars. Again, she's working with her hands. She's doing something. I've done ceramics and china painting. I'm a self-taught painter. My favorite is watercolor. She's being creative. And finally, I've learned over the years that you have to focus on the positives. In the building where I live, I've started an optimist club where people can gather together to look at the bright side of life. What is the significance of that? You need a positive mental attitude to live a long and healthy life. This is what we need. We need to eat good food. We need to exercise, and we need people in our lives that love us, that we can love. And those are the 3 most important things. There are other things that's important too. Go get some sunlight. There's other things that we need to deal with. But the 3 most important things: eat good food, high quality food, get good exercise, and go love people. And that's it. All right, guys. Appreciate you watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye.